Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions we all face, and we're going to do it by looking at a letter that's almost 2,000 years old. It's a letter written not to stir up fear, but actually to bring some powerful, powerful comfort.
I mean, it's a question we've all asked, right? When someone we love dies, what happens? Where are they? And maybe the biggest question of all, will we ever get to see them again? It's something that hits so close to home for all of us. And you know, this very same anxiety was gripping a group of new believers way back in the ancient city of Thessalonica. They were a brand new church, they were already facing some pretty intense persecution, and when people in their community started to pass away, a very real fear began to spread.
See, their fear was super specific. They had been taught that Christ could return at any moment. So they started asking, wait a minute, what about our friends, our family, who've already died? Did they miss it? Are they going to miss out on being reunited with Jesus forever? This wasn't just some theological debate for them, it was causing them deep personal grief.
So the Apostle Paul writes them a letter. And before he even really starts to answer their question, he gives his whole reason for writing. And this is key. He says, therefore, comfort one another with these words. His goal wasn't to create some complicated timeline for people to argue about. The whole point was comfort. These words were meant to be a healing balm for a heartbroken community.
So how exactly did Paul bring them that comfort? Well, not with some vague platitudes, not just, oh, they're in a better place. No, he gave them a direct, step-by-step sequence of exactly what is going to happen. He took their fear head on.
And this whole sequence kicks off with one of the most absolutely dramatic scenes in the entire Bible. This is not some quiet, secret little event. It starts with a massive announcement that grabs the attention of, well, everyone. Just listen to the language here. This is from Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God. I mean, there is no mistaking this. It's a majestic, loud, powerful announcement. The King is here.
So with the stage set like that, the obvious next question is, okay, who gets gathered up to meet him? And this is where Paul speaks right to the heart of what the Thessalonians were so afraid of. Who's first in line for this incredible reunion?
And the answer, right there in the very next part of the verse, is the knockout punch to their fear. It says, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Think about that. Far from being left out or forgotten, the believers who have already passed away, they're actually the first priority. They get the place of honor.
And you can just see how compassionate this sequence is. It's so intentional. Only after their loved ones, the ones they were grieving for, have been raised, only then does the focus shift to the believers who are still alive on earth when this happens. There's a beautiful, comforting order to it.
And then verse 17 brings it all together. It says, then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Did you catch that? Together with them. That's the answer they were desperate for. It's not two separate groups, two separate events. It's one huge unified reunion. So let's just recap that sequence real quick. Step 1, the Lord descends with a shout. Step 2, the dead in Christ rise first. Step 3, those who are still living are caught up. And step 4, everybody, all together, meets the Lord. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gets left behind.
Okay, but let's zoom in a little bit on some of the words Paul uses here, because they tell us even more about how powerful and, maybe most importantly, how permanent this whole event really is.
So that phrase, caught up, the original Greek word is harpagosomatha. Now this isn't talking about gently floating up into the sky. This word means to be seized, to be snatched away. It's sudden, it's powerful, it's irresistible. It paints a picture of a miraculous and instantaneous event.
So, all right, everyone's gathered together to meet the Lord in the air. But what happens next? Is this just a quick welcome party and then everybody comes back down to earth? Or is this something much, much bigger?
Paul doesn't leave any room for us to guess. The very next thing he says in verse 17 gives us the ultimate result. And so we shall always be with the Lord. That's it. That's the goal. This meeting isn't temporary. It's the beginning of an eternal, unbroken, forever union with Christ for every single believer.
So what does all this mean for us, right here, right now? Paul wanted this teaching to completely change how the Thessalonians lived their lives, and by extension, how we live ours. It's about more than just knowing what happens in the future. It's about having comfort and being ready in the present.
You see, this whole idea that Christ could return at any moment, theologians call it imminence. It wasn't meant to be a scare tactic. It was meant to create this constant state of hopeful expectation. The idea is to live your life alert, ready, and excited to meet the Lord, whenever that time comes.
And you can actually see little clues about this all through the letter. Paul says things like, "we who are alive," putting himself in that group that might still be here when Christ returns. He says it will happen unexpectedly, like a thief in the night, and because of that, he tells them, "Let us be alert and sober," because they are people who live in the light, always ready.
So, let's just boil it all down. What are the big takeaways? Well, first, believers who have died are absolutely not left behind. In fact, they rise first. Then, the living are snatched up to join them. This whole gathering is sudden and incredibly powerful. The end result? A permanent, forever union with the Lord. And the purpose of knowing all this is twofold: to comfort us when we grieve, and to encourage us to live ready.
And let's just circle all the way back to where we started. The real heart of this passage, the core of it, isn't some complex puzzle for us to speculate about. It's a promise meant to give deep, real pastoral reassurance to people who are afraid and grieving.
And that really leaves us with one final thing to think about. Knowing that the Bible lays out this clear picture, not of loss, but of a prioritized and permanent reunion, how did that ancient promise change the way we can think about grief, and maybe even redefine hope in our own lives today?